My name is Ryan Gopel. I'm the EVP and CFO of Global Crossing Airlines. I'm here to present about, we're currently traded, on the OTC under JETMF. We also are traded on the NEO under JET and JET.B. So let me go right into it. So Global Crossing Airlines was formed in December of 2019. We saw an opportunity to launch an airline to address the multi-billion-dollar narrow-body charter service industry in the United States. Narrow-body charter, just so you know, is we use Airbus A320s and 321s. So those are the planes that have 3 rows, single aisle, 3 rows. They could take up to 180 people. So that's the target market that we're looking at. When we launched in December 19, we saw there was an unmet need for this kind of service within the United States. And we felt by offering younger planes, great service, and a great brand, it would be a successful business. Then COVID hit. And so, and for most people in aviation, COVID was seen as catastrophic. You know, airlines were hemorrhaging lots of money. We joked that we were the most profitable airline in the world because we weren't flying. But what it really did is it created an opportunity for us to not only negotiate contracts with every single vendor, it allowed us to track top talent, and it allowed us to negotiate deals for plane leases that were 50% below the price pre-COVID. So everything in our model got 50% better, is really what happened through COVID. And as a result, we were able to launch an airline and create a platform capable of generating billions of dollars with less than $10 million invested. And that's what we did. So what specifically do we do? So if you look at the way we think about it, we're asset light. In that sense is we don't purchase the aircraft, we've leased them all to date. The values in aircraft right now are so great, there's no sense in putting our capital into it. We really target 2 markets, passenger charter and cargo. We've launched with passenger, and with passenger that is, and I'll go into the customer base, but sports teams, government, military, there's a pretty broad network of people who do it. Cargo we'll be launching at the end of the year, and I'll go more into that. We use the Airbus family of aircraft, the 319, 320, 321, and eventually the 330. The reason we saw that was an advantage was, one, the pilots can fly all 4 types of aircraft, or with Boeing, even if you went from a 737-300 to an NG or a MAX, it's a different pilot class, so you have to separate. Whereas Airbus, you can use the same pilot group across all the plane types, which is an efficiency. We also saw there were no Airbus operators in the United States doing charter, and we thought that was another differentiating point. And so for us, the Airbus made a lot of sense. Pilots, obviously, you hear a lot about pilot shortages. We are actively recruiting, and we'll go into our pilot training pipeline, but we've managed to attract some great pilots. I think COVID opened the door to a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily look at someone like us, and we've been really fortunate with who we have. And ultimately overhead. You know, one of the aspects of running an airline is how do you keep your fixed costs low? Now we operate on what's called an ACMI model. So ACMI stands for aircraft, crew, maintenance, and insurance. So when we invoice a customer, we sell the whole plane, and we invoice them on an ACMI basis. Why that's significant is we don't take risk for fuel. So you know, the first thing people hear when they hear about airlines is, oh, you have fuel risk. Oh, you're going to get hit by this, your margins get destroyed in fuel. Fuel for us is a cost plus item. So we put it in our contracts, we market, we put a base fuel price. If the price changes, we invoice that to the customer. The other advantage of ACMI is we're not as concerned as whether or not we sell tickets. They take the whole plane. Whether they put 50 people on it or 180 people is the customer's choice. So these are 2 massive risk factors in an airline operation that through our model we don't take. And so again, we're an ACMI model, we're asset light, and we minimize risk at pretty much every step of the way. So how have we done so far? We launched on August 7th with 1 aircraft. By December of 2021, we had 6 aircraft. We have 3 more aircraft coming this quarter, and we project to be at 13 by the end of the year. How does that translate into revenue? Q4, we did $11 million in revenue. For the whole year of last year, we did $14 million in revenue. Keep in mind, we started in August, so it's not a full year. We expect revenue this year to exceed $90 million, with over half secured already under long-term contracts. We have over $161 million in long-term contracts and LOI secured in Q1, just signed in Q1 for 2022 and beyond. We ended last year with $8 million in cash, plus deposits for aircraft in place. We forecast profitability by Q3. We seek to uplist to NASDAQ or NYSE by the end of the year, And with all of this, our current market cap is $53 million. If you look at our current status, we have 5 320s, 1 321, and we have 1 319, 320, and 321 to be delivered this quarter. The April delay should be at the end of the month. The 319, 320, and 321 are all contracted and ready to go. We hope to get them earlier, but supply chain issues you'll hear in every presentation, but we are definitely getting them. The other thing we want to talk about is cargo. So there is a massive market that's been created through e-commerce on cargo. We believe the 321F, which is F stands for freighter, is going to be the next thing in aviation for freight. Right now, there's over 350 757s, now throwing a lot of models at you, that are operating in the United States for the FedEx and the DHLs and the UPSs of the world. Their average age is 30 years. When those aircraft get to 34, 35 years, they cease to be economically viable, so they're going to have to find a replacement. So freighters who are operating these aircraft are either going to have to go to a 767, which is a big step up, or they're going to have to go to a 737, which is a big step down. The 321F, with its configuration, is able to take almost the exact same load as a 757 for the operating cost of a 737. So what does this mean? It's a really good deal for the freight operators. We're going to contract that out in the same manner we do the passenger, ACMI. We're not going to sell freight, we're just going to sell the whole aircraft. Companies such as Lufthansa has decided this is their freight aircraft of the future. Japan Airlines, this is their freight aircraft of the future. And a partner airline of ours, SmartLynx, has designated this as their freighter of the future. We have 18 under commitment to be delivered over the next 3 to 4 years. We're the only Airbus operator in North America with this aircraft. And we believe this is going to be a huge, a major differentiation for us going forward as we put our business next to that business next to the passenger business is something we think we can really scale. When we look at the team today, we have 50 pilots, 24 in training. We add 14 every 2 weeks. And so we're constantly adding to the capacity. Pilots are really your constraint in how many hours you can fly per month. And so we're constantly focused on that. 120 flight attendants, bases in Atlantic City, Miami, Las Vegas, and we're opening one in Texas later this quarter. So we're moving rapidly. We're still less than a year old, and we're making great progress. If we wanted to go specifically into the P&L for Q4 and full year, again, full year revenues was 14.3. We operated 1,600 block hours. Block hours is when you when the plane has the blocks on, literally the blocks, when they take the block off, that's the start of the hour, and when they put the blocks back on when you get to the gate, that's the end of the hour. And that's how you invoice everything. So we track everything on block hours. We did have substantial loss in 2021. The vast majority of that was tied to certification. So that was all pre-revenue, getting the teams in place, systems in place. Q4, as you can see, we operated significantly more hours and revenue than the Q3, and the loss was shrinking as well. So we're constantly investing in pilots, training, and infrastructure, because our goal isn't to get to 6 aircraft. Our goal is to get to 50. And so with 50 aircraft, you're a multi-billion-dollar entity. You have to make the investments today to get there. So what does our growth look like? Our Q1 revenue will exceed 2021, and has. We haven't disclosed that yet, but we forecasted this in our last earnings call. We will average double-digit revenue growth every quarter for 2022. And it's a really easy math. We don't have to invent anything. We just have to take delivery of a plane and put it to work. And that's really the driver. I think one of the takeaways on this industry and on this business is we don't have to get through a phase 3 trial. We don't have to drill a well. We don't have to get some sort of report back that validates our value. We just have to take the platform we've created and add aircraft and go sell it. And that's really as simple as it gets. So it's really coming down to an execution, and that's what we're focused on. We expect revenues to exceed $90 million in 2022, again with half secured today. And we will add the cargo business in October. We take delivery of the first 2 in August. We'll be certified and flying in October. And that will be a major accelerant to revenue and growth. Contracts. What do we have? So we have a key U.S. contract that's, and we put everything in hours, not dollar amount, which has 4,900 hours in 2022, 9,300 hours in 2023 and 24. Flying to Havana. If you've ever flown with Havana Air or tried to fly with Havana Air, you're actually flying on our aircraft. They buy the whole plane, they sell the tickets, we fly the flight. And so one of the opportunities on the Cuba side is as the provinces open up, we're in a pole position to go take advantage of all those flights. And we have the infrastructure in place and the aircraft. Collegiate tournament and fan travel. We had just started in December. We did some bowl games, flying for not only, it's amazing, it's not only the football team that goes, it's all their fans, their band, the parents. They all charter planes to go to these events. March Madness is no different. We devoted 2 aircraft to March Madness, and we flew 170 hours in about 10 days, flying multiple teams. We in fact flew the championship team home after they won the finals. In talking with the NCAA, and that's contracted to us through the NCAA. So there's seasonal work that's built in there, and I'll talk about our revenue profile, but in talking with the NCAA, they were so impressed with our performance, they said, how many aircraft can you give us next year? And so for us, that's a testimony to what we've done. Looking at LOIs, we have a major tour operator. We're going to operate out of Amsterdam for this summer. For cargo, we have an LOI in place for a major cargo operator for the first cargo aircraft, and the second one for a Caribbean operator. So we're actively selling those cargo aircraft. We expect the first 5 to be fully contracted before the end of the year. So if you go, I did this. Fleet build out. So this is really when you want to think about the way the fleet is structured. The blue is cargo and the green is passenger. By the end of the year, we expect to have 3 cargo and 10 passenger. And as you progress forward, we want to get to 25 and 25. Why is this material? I think if you were to look at forecasting how these things would work, we target about $200,000 a month in operating income per passenger and $400,000 in operating income per cargo. That's kind of a high-level pro forma every month, every aircraft. So if you back into what 50 aircraft look like, you get to pretty big numbers. Now there's an overhead to cover that. You know, the overhead would run between $10 and $15 million, growing as you get a bit bigger, past 20, 25 aircraft, but that's well proportioned to what we're doing. So again, by doing what we've done, by creating the certification we've created, by getting the aircraft we've created a platform where everyone else in the space generates multi-billion dollars of revenue. And we have the same certification, the same systems, the same capability, and that's really our ambition. So who have we flown for? This is just a smattering of some of the teams we've flown for. I don't know if you remember the Hubble, the new telescope that was launched out of, we flew the NASA engineers back and forth in preparation for that launch. We work with multiple brokers, multiple government officials, and multiple teams. So one of the things that really stands out, other than the pretty logos, which is always a nice slide to put up there, we wanted to diversify our revenue. I think if we've learned anything through COVID is you can't have one customer, you can't have one type of business, and you can't have one idea. So we sort of break it out. You know, we have the long-term multi-flight project, U.S. government in Cuba right now. We're looking to add the Department of Defense in August. The way the rules work for the Department of Defense is you have to have flown for a year before you're allowed to fly for them under what's called the CRAFT program. So that would be in August of this year. So that's a major customer we're going to look at. As a side note, 2 weeks into our operation when we started, we were called on by the government to go to Afghanistan to help evacuate the people at the airport. I think you saw the pictures. I think you saw it. We were the only airline who went into Kabul. We sent both of our planes, or literally our entire fleet, managed to do 8 flights and get 1,500 people out. So we're pretty proud of what our team was able to do. I think it was a testament of our operating capability, and the government definitely noticed. So we're looking forward to, once we can hit this 1-year hurdle, that's not emergency, we can get more involved in that business. Short-term, and so that long-term multi-flight is about 40%. Short-term repeat business, that's your NCAA, college football teams. You know, right now we're bidding multiple college football teams for the fall, and we expect to be effectively sold out before we go into the summer. Bowl season, College World Series for baseball, Final Four tournaments, all significant events, and we are well positioned. We have a great reputation to fly those. Ad hoc, incentive groups. You know, you'll hear a lot of, you know, pharmaceuticals or corporate want to do trips to Mexico or Caribbean. They'll contract someone with us. And one of the reasons this is kind of growing quite a bit is as the major carriers have scaled back their fleets, and if you're living in non-hub town, like it's easy if you're in Miami or if you're in Dallas or if you're in New York, but if you're not, and if you're in a secondary market, you're generally looking at multiple connections, you're looking at multiple planes. It just makes more economic sense to use a charter aircraft like ours. And the fact that we're offering high quality service, you know, Wi-Fi, our planes are literally, 3 of them came from Alaska Airlines. They have the Virgin America interior, the mood lighting, which apparently people love. First class seats if they want. We actually have an all business class configuration we can offer to our clients. It's very attractive to those kind of groups. And then finally, cargo. The cargo business has been no secret, has been booming for the last 2 to 3 years because of COVID. One of the things we're seeing on the e-commerce side is there's two ways to load a plane. You can either space out, so you run out of space, or you run out of weight. So with the e-commerce side, you tend to run out of space because they're boxes, and they want to put them in containers, so it's all about efficiency. So where that really comes in is when you look at our Airbus A320, you can take 55% more containers than you can take on a 737. The other advantage of it is a lot of the cargo operations today are wide body. So you need to fill, it's a lot of weight, 50, 60 tons worth of stuff. The 321F is 25 tons. So what that allows you to do is go to thinner routes. So you can go to secondary markets to feed the hubs. And we really see that sort of growing. Sort of like when the regional jets started to come in, and how many, think about how many hundreds and hundreds of regional jets there are feeding the main hubs. We see that dynamic growing in cargo as well, as the expectation for same-day delivery, next-day delivery just continues to grow. So we believe there's over 3,000 aircraft that need to fill this void over the next 10 to 15 years. We have 18. If we have 18, that's a really, really big business. And we're pretty excited about what that can do for us. So finally, we believe it's a resilient and a kind of de-risked business model. It's not the classic aviation business model that you might be aware of. We're still acquiring assets at post-COVID prices. There's well over 300 320s that are over 12 years old, which is kind of our age target, that are either returning from lease or parked. So we're still negotiating the similar rates. We are on track for the launch of our cargo revenue service on October 1st, which we think will be extremely accretive to what we're doing. And we have major long-term contracts in place to provide solid revenue. So I think with that, looking as an opportunity from a company, we've built the platform. It's built. It's been de-risked. It's certified. There's not government risk. We just need to execute. Take delivery of planes and go sell it. And I think in business today, if you can just get down to execution, which you can generally control through capability, it tends to bode well for your future. So with that, I can take any questions. Sir.
On your presentation there, it indicated Cuba was a renewed opportunity.
Sure.
Can you talk about your experience last year? What routes?
So the only routes you can fly to Cuba are to Havana, and so they are regulated by the Department of the DOT. So there are certain slots that have been allocated, so you apply to the Department of Transportation for slots. So we flew Miami, Havana, and Tampa, Havana, and I think we had something like 500-600 slots. There's a couple thousand slots a year, so we've reapplied for the slots, and they get renewed, I think, in May. And so with our operator, we were basically flying 15 flights a week from either Miami or Tampa to Havana. And so if the provinces open up, which hasn't happened, obviously that can grow, and we can also look at adding from Texas and New York. So the baggage container was full, but from our perspective, it didn't matter, right? Because they paid for the whole plane, and so we love to see them full because that means our customer's doing well. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. But what you find with that market, and one of the reasons charter works into Cuba, is they sell. Major airlines have some pretty severe baggage policies. If I showed you what loading bags, and I actually did it over Christmas, looks like for the flights to Cuba, it's these massive kind of almost hockey bags wrapped in tape that fill the holes as people take stuff home. And so that's why they fly charter and not scheduled. Yeah. Great. There's nothing else? I guess that's how we wrap it up, right? Great.